Three, two. Hey, we're actually live, everybody.
Live.
This is 2OF Entertainment.
Well, here we go. It's the man that promises you nothing and delivers. It's the veritable man motor mouth. It's Roald Woods who feels the need to call himself Rob Vega. It somehow makes him feel important. Anyway, do have a listen and try not to throw up.
I want to be a beat. That's all I know. I hear that music and I just want to be like clicking my fingers at a coffee house somewhere.
I know the feeling. No, I don't know the feeling.
Cool.
Okay.
Very
all right. So, Stephen, how are you doing?
Yes,
all right,
I am good, my friend. I am good. If there's any better.
First of all, before we get into anything, I just want to respond to something I saw recently. I appreciate the interest in. Okay, just a full disclosure. So, I'm actually an English fellow. I was born in the UK. I came here when I was a little boy. You'll understand why I'm bringing this up. And so I'm an Englishman, not in New York, but in Johannesburg. Okay, so that's who I am. But I've probably spent the majority of my life here, and I suppose I am kind of South African to some extent. Yeah, I suppose I am. Okay. I went to school mainly here, so yeah, I suppose I am. And I'm a Boks supporter, Springboks supporter, which is rugby, by the way. So that's the picture. All right. So I saw somebody online reaching out and trying the foods from South Africa. And it was interesting. It was great. I think it was an American fellow. And by and large, he enjoyed it. But he got to a thing called these. Well, they come in various shapes, but this is a rusk. This is a rusk. All right. It's like a dry. No, this is a fairly, yes, there are versions of it, but it's a fairly unique thing here. But anyway, that's not the point. It is, I think you can think like biscotti is probably the closest thing. Anyway, the point is, this clown was sitting eating it just like this. So here's what I want to just clarify. If you ever come across a rusk from South Africa, you don't eat it. You don't. It's horrible. You need
to dunk it.
This. You need this. Yeah. No, but I thought that was fairly common knowledge. And it was the second time, actually, that I've seen people eating a dry rusk. And I went, what a horrible thing to want to do. Yeah. You pop a thing like that in your coffee. Right? Yeah. Coffee's best. Or tea, but I'm a coffee man. There you go. And
look at that. How to eat a rusk.
And that's how you eat a rusk. Okay, please don't eat them dry and say, oh, but then he was saying, oh, these things are horrible, man. They're so dry. And I'm going, yeah, they are. That's why you put them in rock coffee. Anyway, right. Rant about rusk over.
Now we know. So now the world knows how to eat a rusk properly.
I thought they did.
Stupid American guy that didn't know what he was doing. Everybody knows though you dunk your rusks. I even know that.
Well, I thought so. I mean, I did take that for granted that everybody around the world knew that if you had a rusk, you dunked it in your coffee, and that's how you ate it. But anyway, I just thought I've got to clear that up. Wow.
Yeah, please. Thank you for that. I can tell you, all our fans is very excited about that now. So thank you.
Good. And yes, we do have, and yes, there is a cookie or a biscuit here, and I swear to God, it is called Salty Cracks.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. It actually is called Salty. SALTICRAX, Salty Cracks. And I've always thought, oh, that's fine, that's normal. But when it was pointed out that means lots of salty cracks. Yeah, okay. And we have a thing also here called a milk tart, which when I was living in the US, people said, what a dreadful name. And I went, you're right. It's a horrible name, but it's like a Danish. Yeah. But it tastes
the Danish
wonderful.
Are definitely milk tarts. Yeah, they're definitely.
Yeah. Well, okay. That's another reality show entirely. But anyway, so I just wanted to put that up. All right. What else did I want to say? Oh, and something else I really need to say is this is a rugby mad country, as you know. Everybody knows, and it's doing pretty well. They've got a good team, but there's one thing I want to have a go at about the South African supporters. Not all of them. It's only usually about 5% of the people that destroyed for everyone else. All right, here it is. And it's true of any sport. When you are a supporter of a team, can you guys hear me right? Hey? When you're a supporter of a team, you are not that team. You don't share that team's abilities. It doesn't reflect on you. It's got nothing to do with you. In fact, if one of those guys from that team saw you in a pub, they'd probably punch your lights out. They get out of my way. All right. So that's just, I just want to get that out there. So if your team wins, it doesn't mean you are a superior individual to the people, the supporters of the other team. That's just, I mean, that's obvious. That's fair. But obviously, recently we played, the Springboks played the All Blacks, and I love the All Blacks. I mean, I do. New Zealand, oh, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And when the sanctions era, when the apartheid era was, I got shut towards the end of it, but there was still a sanctions period, and everybody, no one would play against South Africa. So I used to watch and support and enjoy the New Zealand rugby team, which is the All Blacks. And I still, oh my God, I'll get in trouble for this. I still think, despite the fact that the Springboks have done unbelievably well, I'm very proud of them. Not that that really means anything in their life. But I think it's great. It's nice when your team wins. Not that it's my, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't own the team. Anyway, so I still think the All Blacks are this, I still think they have the greatest legacy. That being said, right now, the Springboks seem to have the upper hand. But that's all it is. It doesn't mean they're superior people, or we can trash Kiwi people, or we can have a go at the New Zealand. That's absolute garbage. We should just say, thanks for pushing us to the brink, and we're going to learn from that, and we want you to push us. That's what it's about. You don't know who's going to win. That's what's great about a great rivalry. You don't know. And if you win, it doesn't mean you demolish the other team. It doesn't mean you're better than the other team. You guys are so crap. They're not. If we blink, they'll beat us. Fact. That's just a fact. Humility is key. And I've just seen so many things recently where people are trashing the it's probably 5% of the supporters. That's the problem. They're the biggest clowns. So I just want to say, if anybody is listening or watching from New Zealand, we love you guys. Push us to the hill. We're not better than you when we beat you. And when you beat us, I hope the same applies. Anyway.
Let me just say this, if I may, because I agree with everything you say, except I'm a Mets fan. So when the Mets finally do win the World Series, then yes, we as the fans are better than everybody else, because we only win a championship every 50 years. So I'm just saying. So as a Met fan, I agree with what you're saying. But now I have a question though. In America, the Boston Celtics and the Green Bay Packers have actually sold stock in their sporting team, like 5%. So if you technically own some of that stock, then technically you are part of the team. So you have to. I'm just saying. But I agree with what you say though on the bigger scale, and I do like the All Blacks. I'm fascinated by them, their legacy. They are. So, and as you know, a few years ago, someone wanted us to buy a rugby team in South Africa, and we couldn't come to terms. So so I remember I got me all excited.
Business can be a challenge here. I will say that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, the challenge we found is getting the money out. The South African government likes when you bring it in. It's just like we were like, so we want to take it out at some point. They're like, oh,
no, you can't take it out. No.
Right.
No. It's like the what's it? Is it Hotel California? You can check out, but you can never leave. Yeah,
we figured that was the money, and for the money they were asking for everything that we were going to get, we're like, we love you guys, but we don't love you that much. So.
Unfortunately, Stephen, what you will find, this is a very complicated country. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Michael Douglas, when he visited here, he said that that South Africa was like a first world country with a third world jacket.
I love it.
And it's true. It's not a first world country, and it's not a third world country. It's such a, America's is very clearly, even in the bad parts, it's still a first world country. Europe, most European countries are first world countries. Zimbabwe is a third world country. Sorry, Zimbabwean people, it's just a fact. Not that it's a bad thing, but this country is an enigma. It's a bit of both. You can be in a mall in Johannesburg and it feels like you're in New York. Really does. And other times, 100 k's away, you can be. It feels like you're in the slums of some unnamed African country, because I don't want to insult any African country, but that's literally the contrast you get here. Now, some people find that charming and interesting. It's part of the history, and that's great. But that's what it is. You can't really put it in a category. It's an enigma in that sense. It's gone. how many languages have we got? Like 11. We've got 11 official languages, and God knows how many others.
Wow.
It is, yeah. But so I want to do in that kumbaya moment. This was sort of my rant. This is what I wanted to talk about because, as I said to you before we got onto this, last week was pretty busy for me. I was driving around the country. The radio station I work for, we did a charity broadcast from one of the cities in the center of the country.
Sure.
So I drove down there. What people don't realize, it's actually quite a big place. It was about a 5-hour drive through nothing. And you go, oh, that's great. No, it's not. There was nothing. It is nothing. You drive out of Joburg for about 5 hours southwest of the city, and there's another city called Bloemfontein, which basically translates as flower fountain, if I can put it that way. Sort of. They call it the Rose City. Anyway, great. It's fine. It's a nice spot. Nothing wrong with it. But as you come out of the greater Joburg area, everything disappears. There's nothing. It's huge. It's like, I guess, what could be it's like parts of Texas, flat, just nothing. But literally with nothing. It's like the moon. There's zero, and it's great. It's beautiful. It's quite magnificent. But then it's also quite tiring because you drive and drive and drive and drive and drive. Anyway, so I went down there last week. That's why we couldn't do the show, although because you said, what happens if we lose connection? And that's true.
Oh, if you were driving, you wanted to do it from the truck. Yeah. And we're like,
having said that, all the way down, perfect coverage. Perfect. We probably could have done it.
Here's what's really funny. If you would have done it, not perfect.
Yeah. No, probably not. But that's the reason I bring it up is because when I lived in Ridgefield, Connecticut, there were people there that used to say to me, wow, you guys have got the internet. Yeah. Highways. Yeah. And they were, I understand that, you don't have, no one expects people to be experts in other parts of the world, but the level of surprise as to how technologically, I'm going to say advanced, this country was quite extraordinary to people. And I said, yeah, there are other people who've got mobile phones too and stuff,
Indoor plumbing.
I know. Indoor plumbing, power. And our power problems seem to have dissipated. We used to have a thing called load shedding, which is kind of like outages.
But isn't your post office going out of business? I just read an article in the FT.
Oh, no. It never was in business, so don't even worry.
Okay, just checking.
No, to be fair, that's the post office here has never worked. It's never really been in business. Honestly, Steve, I don't think I've ever mailed a letter in this country in the last 20 years.
Okay,
really.
Just checking.
If I actually want the parcel to get there, I will use a courier company. If I want to flip a coin and go, well, it could be my lucky day. Yeah, sure. But not if you want it to get there. The funny thing is, from a legality point of view, you still need a mailing address. Not that anybody mails you anything if they because it never gets to you. It just hasn't worked. I know they're about to fold. The thing that surprised me is when the story came out that our post office was potentially folding and things were going wrong, I went, I didn't know they still existed. To be honest with you, I didn't know they were there. Apparently, yeah.
The FT had a huge story a couple days ago about I saw it. It's a South African post office about to go away, and I was like, "What?" And I was reading about it's like $1 billion rand in debt and all that. It just kept going. Wow. And it goes, the people that are in charge can't fix it, and they're like, "So I think it's the end of this month. You have no more post office," which apparently you didn't have anyway, so it doesn't matter.
It honestly is not going to change anything for people here. Honestly, homing pigeons. Is homing pigeons better? And honestly, in this age of email and courier companies, what do you need a post office for anyway? So
that's very true.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, I did enjoy the fact when I lived in the US, what I thought was really cool was that I could post my letter in my mailbox outside my house, which I thought was, that's fairly peculiar to the US. I don't know that any other place does that. Or maybe they do. I'm not aware of it. And I only found that out because I had a problem with I had a mobile phone, and I went down to the local mall there in Danbury.
Sure.
Danbury, yeah. I think it's called the Danbury Fair or whatever it is. Yeah. Anyway, went down there and took I said to the guy, look, phone problem. He says, oh, here we go. And he gave me one of these boxes that you put the phone in and you kind of bend like that and it seals the phone. And I said, what do I do with this? And he said, well, take it home, pop the phone in, and stick it in your mailbox. And I went, I'm sorry, what? Yeah. I said, do you know where I'm from? We don't put things outside our house if we want them to be there in the morning. He said, no, it'll be fine. Just pop it in. I said, all right. So I put it in the mailbox, and he went, yeah. Then the post guy will come and pick it up. And I went, really? And he went, yes, that's how you mail the thing. And I went, okay. Look, I'd only been there about 2 months. I didn't know that.
Oh, okay.
I knew obviously when I arrived home and there was, the little flag was up, you knew there was mail. But I didn't realize you could put your mail in there. So when he arrives, I mean, I know people know this who live there, but it was kind of fascinating to me. I could put my mail in, not that I was really mailing anybody, and then he would take that and put the new mail in, and that would be great. So it meant I didn't have to go and find a post box anywhere, which was great. Anyway, so obviously nothing.
That's dying in America now. What's happening?
Okay. Well, yeah, because email. I mean,
no.
Well,
what happens is with the new communities that are being built, instead of putting a post box in front of everybody's house, they have a community postal center where you can still drop off your mail for the mailman. And he can still do it, but they don't drive around the neighborhoods anymore. They go to one place and they go, and they're done. Because they're basically lazy. And that's why. So that's why when you talk about the postal service, you're like, whatever.
So you're saying the home mail mailing system thing is disappearing?
For a new communities, yes. Older communities that have it still have it. But the newer communities they're building today, whether it's a medium income or it's a billionaire place, they literally have a central area where they put the mail and you drop off your mail. They don't drive to your house anymore and and do that. Yeah, I mean, there's old neighborhoods still have that, but yeah, it's kind of misses the appeal. Yeah, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, because I mean, I will say we had the mailman, because it's called the mailman there, not the post guy, the mailman. Sorry, I got to get it right, the mailman. And it's not a railway; it's a railroad, just to be clear. So the mailman used to. He used to come and put things in the house. And I remember the one day when we were there, he knocked on the door, and I went to the door, and he was standing there, and he said, sorry, so your door is locked. And I went, well, yeah. And he said, no, well, then I'm not going to be able to put you need to leave your door open because I can't put your post packages inside your house, your deliveries. And I said to him, mate, we don't really do that, And but after about 2 months I did, and then it was fine. And I would order things, and then he would open the door and pop the parcel in.
Box in, sure.
And that was after I got over the fact there were no fences around the properties. That was also a cultural shock for me. I mean, it's great. Don't get me wrong. One of the things that you have here are neighborhood watches, and I go, how can you possibly have a neighborhood watch if you can't see your neighbor's house? And anyway, so we have to get over them. I haven't even touched what I wanted to talk about, but this is great. This is fun. Let's go. Carry on.
Just so you know, when I was a kid, when we lived up north, we used to in the summer times I would sit outside just to wait for the postman to get the mail, because when you're a kid, they call you master, so it'd be master, your last name, or the master of the house. They don't address mail like that anymore. So I'd be like, oh, look, it could be some catalog, but it says the master. I was like, oh, my mom was like, sure. So the postman said to me, I have a surprise for you coming in a week, because I'd meet him every day when I was a kid, sitting on the stoop. And one day he brings this mega box. And I was like, what is it? And I had made a comment in the summertime. I liked his pit helmet. And he ordered me a pit helmet. And I have somewhere in storage the helmet from like 1960 something from the postal department, which they don't even wear anymore. And that to me was the coolest thing in the world. And to this day, when I think back on it, that is the coolest thing that I'm thinking. I'm sure he had to pay for it. I'm thinking, what a nice guy, because his little 6-7-year-old was like, "It's the postman, and he got me my own pit helmet that I could wear, and I would wear it all the time. And then as I got older, I was like, okay, I'm going to save it, and so it's sitting in a carton, and it's and I still have it, 60 years later, so it's awesome. So yeah, so that was the postal service back in the 60s and the 70s. Now, I don't think anybody knows anybody's name.
Oh, we knew our guy. Our guy
Yeah,
was
back
married.
then I knew our guy. Yeah, back then I knew
Well,
our
this
guy.
was-
I don't know our person.
Well, this was the when were we were there from about 2012 to 2015.
Yeah.
We certainly knew the male guy. Now, one thing I've got to ask you is you kept there's three things. I know you call it Z and not Z, and you call it a stoop, which is from here.
Is right.
A stoop. It's a stoop. It's an yeah, but no, but the stoop on outside, sitting outside, it's like the word trek, although I'm not pronouncing it exactly right, because if you want to do it correctly, if you want the Afrikaans pronunciation, it would be trek, but that's beside the point. Like Charlie's Tron, but anyway, that's another story. So trek and stoop, these are all Afrikaans words. They are. They like so. It's actually pronounced ST. It's actually spelled STOEP. A stoop. It's a patio. It's their word. It's their word for a patio. But I did hear you say that. Now, when I lived in the States, people were using it a lot, and I went, well, that's interesting. Charlie's is really expanding your interest here, along with Elon and so on. They're really bringing the language to the country.
I was saying stoop when I was back in the 60s before anybody knew who
okay,
people were.
but I'm just saying, you might find that the origin interesting. And there was keep calling him a postman. I thought it was a mailman. I thought it was a mailman.
Mailman, postman. We used to call him the postman.
Okay.
I mean,
I called him a postman. Okay, just learning something. Yeah, that's fine.
Because
okay.
technically, when you post something, when I say I still say to someone, if they're going to post, I go put something in the post. I don't say put something in the mail. I say put something in the post. So I still.
I think you might find that your left leg, or is it your right leg, is English.
Probably something's letting it. It could be my middle one.
Yeah,
but,
I think so.
Something's there.
I think so. I think
something's English. Yeah,
you're losing it, Steve. You're losing it, man. You're drifting across drifting up across the pond.
I've been that way since I was a kid. So I've always said, because my grandparents said put it in the post, and so I just got that from them, and it's never really changed. The Z thing came from doing business all over the world. And people would say Z and C sound so close. And I was like, they does. And I was like, all right, you're right. It should be Z. So it's just like Adidas, as they call Adidas here. And I call it Adidas because I told the story, right? My friend in Australia, Melbourne, Adidas. Yeah,
that's,
it was like
that. But that's correct.
Yeah,
but that's
I know that.
That's his name,
so in America, when I go to buy trainers, I'm like, hey, do you have Adidas? And I've had guys go, I know what you're talking about. And they're all excited. And have other guy goes, what's Adidas? I go, oh, I'm sorry, Adidas. And they're like, oh, yeah, we got Adidas. And sound like morons. So it's like, because I do international, I've tried to adapt to more of what the world says than what America says. And I write my dates funny. Like today to me would be 12/9/24. But because people won't know what that means, they'll think it's December. I have to write 12 September 24, and then when it hits 13, I go 13/9/24. No big deal. Yeah, so I've been doing that since I'm a kid. So
okay, I've sometimes done it the other way around. So, for instance, my dad always used to call it aluminum, which is not a very English thing.
Right.
And he decided at some point in his life that sounded better, and the provenance of the word was it was actually aluminum. And somebody decided it was going to be aluminium because of uranium and chromium and stuff. Yeah. And he said, no, that's what it is. He platinum, aluminum. That's what he. So I grew up calling it aluminum, and then everybody said, why are you trying to sound so American? I said, why? That's the word. And they went, no, that's the American version. I went, I honestly didn't know. And the other thing he used to do is he said, it's not a boot. The back of a car. The first guy to put a thing on the back of the car was Henry Ford, and it was a trunk. Right. It was a big metal box, and it was called a trunk. And he said, "Where this boot crap came from, I don't know." That was my father. I think he might have been half American. He didn't know it. That's what I think. But and it wasn't. And he said, "You can't put a V8 under a bonnet. It's the hood."
It's the hood. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying he wasn't trying to necessarily be anything in particular. It just didn't work for him. He said, "Hood, bonnet."
Right.
He said, "This is a bonnet. This is a bonnet."
Yeah, bonnet's a hat that a woman wears.
Yeah, and he said, "This thing in my foot, that's a boot." He said, "That thing you put things in the back of the car is a trunk." He says, "It sounds good, trunk, junk in the trunk." And that's what he used to say. And and he stuck with it. And I guess I grew up with that. And when I went out into the big wide world, people said, "Why are you trying to be something you're not?" And I said, "But that's what I know it as."
Right.
You know? And even now, if I do commercials here and I have to say aluminium, I have to think about it. I do. I do.
Right.
And everyone around me calls it aluminium. And it sounds, even when I say it, I have to make a big deal out of the extra I. Aluminium. Right. Yeah. So, yeah. But I mean, whatever. As long as people understand you. Yeah. You know, the guy who when you said Adidas to him, he knew you know what you meant. And it isn't Adidas because his name wasn't Adi. His name was Addy. And his surname was Dazzlet. So it's Addy Dazzlet. Adidas. Yeah. That's not really up for debate. If you want to pronounce it, you can call it Adidas if you like, but it's just not right. So anyway.
Well, the first time I heard that was probably in the late 90s, because I always called it Adidas, right? And I was in Australia.
Yeah.
And my buddy said, "We're going to go," he says, "You need some new trainers." And I'm like, I knew what that was, sneakers. And I was like, yeah, let's get some trainers. He says, "There's an Adidas store around the corner." I'm thinking, Adidas store? Let's go to the Adidas store. And I get there and it says, I'm like, "Oh, he goes, no, it's pronounced Adidas." And then I get curious about it. And I looked at, and then I read the history of Adidas. And I was like, it is Adidas. And I was all excited that it was whatever. And I was like, very cool. In fact, I told somebody about 4 or 5 years ago when the World Cup was on, it's Adidas, not Adidas. And he was like, yeah, whatever. And then he saw some special and they kept paying Adidas. He goes, "I really believe you." And I'm like, "What, you didn't believe me when I told you? What, do you think I made it up?" So, you know, it's funny. The people that are really into trainers or sneakers know it's Adidas. Because there's stores throughout the United States that the guys that really collect and sell high end. And if you say Adidas, they know. They're like, "Oh, you okay?" Like, there's the special. Here you go.
You're serious.
So you're a serious guy. If you're just going, "I want some Adidas," they're like, "Yeah, we got some. Yeah, $9.99 for you." So, you know, it's like, so some of the stores are very interesting. I have 2 Adidases that they made special runs on, and they're a bright yellow trainer. And I only wear them when I travel. And going through customs anywhere in the world, they're always like, "I love your trainers." I'm like, "Thank you." And it's like that breaks the ice, makes everything go easier. You know, it's like no problem. Like, okay, cool.
So the guy that introduced you to the correct pronunciation, was he an Aussie, did you say?
No. Yeah. Marcus he's from the land down under, where men are men and sheep are scared. Yeah. So
that's right. That's right. Yeah. We should do a whole show like that, dear Stephen. Absolutely.
That's exactly what he sounds like.
That's right. I've got lots of family there. And some of them sound like that. Some of them sound almost English. It depends. Like around the Melbourne area, they sound, the accent isn't quite as strong. But as you go up the East Coast, up to places like Cairns, you know, then it gets like totally whatever. But an interesting thing is, I watched I don't know, the algorithm, the YouTube thing decided that I needed to see this. It was a chap discussing how the Australian accent came to be. Do you know how it came to be? What would your guess be? What would your guess be? Do you have a guess?
No, okay. Not even a clue.
So many people think, well, it's got to do with the fact you had the settlers who came. It's a bit of a Cockney accent. And maybe there's some of the local, you know, the indigenous people. Maybe there was some sort of I don't know. No one didn't really thought about it, but maybe that's what it is. It turns out that if you combine, and I haven't fact checked this at all. This is just some crap I saw on YouTube like this. Is he said, and it was an English fella. He said, what happened is when the first settlers arrived, and bear in mind they were from all the countries in the UK. So you had Welsh people, Scottish people, Irish people, and English people with all those range of dialects and accents all mixed in. And they all arrived in the New World in Australia, and obviously there was myriad of accents floating around for the children to listen to. And what happened is the first sort of generation of kids that were born in Australia, they heard these accents, they all got together, and this Aussie accent started to form. So allegedly, it's got to do with the idea that it's like an amalgamation of all the accents, all just kind of, if you take a Scottish, Irish, English accent, roll it all into one, you get that. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. There's probably some phoneticists going, "No, that's not right." But I'm just telling you what I heard.
You should come on the show and tell us then.
But I'll tell you something else. Cool. Just something. So this one other thing I wanted to mention, because while we're on the topic, because obviously accents fascinate me, and I always thought this is something which I'd love to. We explore this a bit at some point. It was the origin of the American accent, and people always thought, well, you see, what happened was the English people went over there, and then they lost their accent, and it became the American accent. It was, in other words, the newer accent was the American accent. That's what I always believed. I thought, oh, there's probably a bit of an Irish influence in there, and whatever, the Rotic stuff and the Scottish thing, whatever. And I thought, I'm happy with that. So basically, the English folk went over, then they lost their accent. They became that, or whatever that was. I hadn't thought about it too much, but it was interesting. It turns out that I apparently was completely wrong. I watched a thing where this chap said, no, that's not true. What happened is the English folk that went over there, 400 odd years ago, actually sounded quite American. They actually rolled their R's. They were very Rotic. Apparently they sounded a lot like the people, let me pick a state, sort of Ohio, that sort of accent. Okay. It's like one of the oldest sort of non-regionally affected accents, I think you could say, because obviously the Northeast region was affected by, well, I'll get onto that. So what happened was, apparently, is the English folk went there, and that's how they spoke. That's how they kind of stayed. They rolled out, like, it was super, and it was really.
But how did she know that?
Well, I don't know. He was a prof. He's some linguistics prof.
Okay.
Apparently.
Okay.
I mean, Steve, it could be from the edge of his thumb. I don't know. I mean, what do I know? But let me tell you why it's quite interesting, because all the folk came there. I mean, we do have the letter R in our words. Why would you stop pronouncing the R? Right. It's super. Why would you say super? Well, I'll get to that. So what happened was, they got there and they all settled, and they had this, that's how they spoke. They spoke like that. And then the other people came, and then some people went north, some people went south. Then the Irish folk came in, and there was a bit of an influence there. But this is the thing. Sometime, I believe, in the late 19th century, and again, I am freestyling here, it was somewhere around there. So obviously the colonists, if you like, they were British folk, but they said, screw you to England. We're now in America, and goodbye. We don't want the king, goodbye. So, there was the War of Independence, and they won. They said, piss off, right? So that was that. America declared independence, and that was that. And then shortly afterwards, they became friends again, because, they became friends again. Sure. But of course, the American country, America, was really just the 13 colonies down the East Coast. Right. And what happened was they resumed trade. They started talking to each other again. Right. And what had happened in England is they didn't have the internet, they didn't have cars, they didn't have money and all that to show off, but they had the way you demonstrated your status was by the way you spoke. Okay. So apparently this is where received pronunciation came from. So the English accent was almost something they manufactured for people to look good, kind of like a vocal fashion thing. So in other words, instead of saying, oh, really, that's great. Oh, really, that's great. It's sort of a stylized way of talking. And the more you think about it, it kind of does make sense, because, why would you stop pronouncing all those letters? You can't see whatever. But it took off. But it took off. Listen, me speaking with this bloody thing as well. But it took off. It took off, and people said, "Oh yes, he must be well-to-do." And then the Queen and the King, and they all took off. And it took off in the southeast, around London and so on and so forth. Except for the Cockneys, that's another story. But it didn't really extend to Scotland, and it certainly didn't make it across to Ireland. So they were like, "No, we're not having it. We're not having any of that. We're going to pronounce our R's. Thank you very much." But they then started trading with the old British America, which was now the United States. Right. And there was contact between the Northeast, between the New England territory and England. Right. And it had an effect on that accent as well, which if you look at some of those New England accents, like the Boston accent, there's no R. They've also dropped their R. The New York accent, where they've dropped their R as well. These were two areas.
Just so you know, New York, we've dropped everything.
Oh, interrupt. Okay. But they were the guys that had the trade. They were trading, and they were contacting the old motherland, and so they thought, oh, they didn't completely take it on, but thought, oh, that's quite nice. That's a nice thing, and allegedly it had some influence on the New England territory, the Northeast, but it didn't really spread anywhere else. And of course, down in the what states like what do they call them? They call them the redneck thing, which is a bit disingenuous. But where all the Scottish folks settled, what do they call them? Not the rednecks. What's the worst? The hillbillies, whatever. Down there, down the Virginias and so on. There were a lot of
where when husband and wife divorced, they're still brother and sister. That place.
Apparently, there were a lot of Scottish folk down there, and they just doubled. They just doubled down on the R's. They doubled down. They said, "No, we will be pronouncing our R's. Thank you." And if you look at that, and if you see how the accent is, how it morphs right across the U.S.,
right?
I suppose it does, because the greatest sort of change, the greatest impact would be the northeastern area, but the rest of the country is kind of uniform-ish, but not that area, which is what I don't know. This could all be bullshit, but this is what I've heard. Yeah.
And in Virginia, we used to have a friend, and she would say she's going to bake a pie, and we'd be like, "You're going to bake a what?" She's going to bake a pie. And my mom would say to her, "You mean you're going to bake a pie?" And she's like, "That's what I just said, honey. I'm going to bake a pie." And I was like, "Okay, it's going to be good." So I remember that, and I would just laugh because my mom would just roll her eyes and like, we're from New York. We actually pronounce things. Then depending if you're from like Brooklyn's like 33rd and 3rd. That's like a Brooklyn, like, "Hey, how you doing?" And so
I love it.
New York accent.
I love it. I mean, when I lived there, I used to sit on the train and just listen to people. And I got to the point where I could almost place them in the 5 boroughs. I mean, it was like that. And even within the boroughs, there were little idiosyncrasies of the accent and language and slang. I think it's great. I've never really, I suppose for normal people who don't do what I do for a living, they feel the need to, like take an accent apart or something. I think I enjoy all accents. I do. Yeah. And I think, but the one thing I've realized when I lived there, I had to develop. They said, "Can you do an American accent?" And I said, "Which one?"
Right.
You're really gonna. And they went, "Oh yeah, okay." And there's like a broadcast U.S. accent. I would say it's kind of like which is sort of non-regional, which is true of every country. And I'll tell you something else. Apart from the rhotic part of it, we pronounce the R's. I would say Australia, South Africa, the UK, and the US, with a few variations. Right. Everyone if you're broadcast in any of those countries, you try to get to a point where you can't be regionally identified. You need to be almost universal within that country. So if you're in America, you don't really want to have a strong Southern accent. Maybe for a character, you should be able to do it, or strong. I love the New York accent, but as a universal accent, I don't know. I'm not sure. The idea is that you don't want to be part of any partisan situation in the country, so they can't identify where you're from. Oh, he's a New Yorker. Oh, he's a Californian. Oh, he's a Virginian, whatever. Right. Or you have this guy who's kind of above all of that. Hi, I'm Tom Brokaw. Hi, I'm Tom Brokaw. That just.
Right. I will say when I travel, though, people say, "Oh, you're from New York," and I'm like, "Really?" And I don't, because I say certain words where people go,
"It's your face, Steve. It's your face. It's not your accent. It's your face." I don't know.
I have a big tattoo that says "Made in New York" on me. So, but it's one of those things. I say certain things, and sometimes you're from New York. No matter where, I could be in Dubai, I could be in London, I can be in the deepest, darkest jungle in Africa, and some tribesmen will go click, click, clack, 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 meaning, "Yeah, you're from New York." I'm like, "Yeah, no kidding." So I'm like, they figure it out. I don't know why. But yeah, I have something that's.
No. Look, definitely, I can see it. It's and it's a good thing, by the way. It's not a bad thing. I tell you what, and as an outsider, I'll tell you what it is. There's an attitude, and it's
true. It's one of those.
No, but it is. No, but it's fine. It's good. It's an attitude. It's hey, look here.
Yep.
Hey. It's not aggressive. That's bad. But you know what I mean. It's like there's it's a big city. There's a lot going on. There's like it's like a no time for bullshit accent. Just hey, come on. It's that.
Got things to do.
Yeah, and not unfriendly, not unfriendly. Just get on with it. Let's do business. Let's make money. Get out of my way. Blah, 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 blah. Are you a tourist? Get out of my damn way. I walk the street every day. What are you doing standing there looking upwards? Get out of my way.
Right.
You know, whatever. Just move. Just do it already. Do it. Do something with your life. You know,
I told you that story. The first time I was in Austin in 2015, I was walking down 6th Street with a cigar, enjoying the day, just walking, but walking like a New Yorker walks, not like some pansy. And all these people would say, I'm with one of the guys that we were doing the thing with, and everyone's like, hey, how you doing? How you doing? I'm like, what the what do you mean how am I doing? I'm gonna beat these people with a bat. My buddy's like, no. People in Austin, Stephen, are friendly. I'm like, yeah, keep your friendliness up. I'll push you in front of a bus. You know, so it's like one of those things. Hey,
I got you friendly right here.
That's right. I'm like, I'm standing here. I mean, but it was like that. And then the other thing which I found fascinating is they would look at the buildings in I'm like, it's a building. You've never seen a building before? I mean, don't embarrass us. It's true. And when we were on Wall Street, we had one of our first transactions. A bunch of us were born and raised New Yorkers. We had this one kid from Iowa. We had to go to San Francisco for a couple of weeks to do something. And this is when San Francisco was like in the 80s where it was clean and nice and whatever. And I remember we were going to Chinatown to get dim sum. And the kid from Iowa just kept looking up at the buildings. And we're like, what are you doing? And he says, they're just so big and it's so clean. And then one of the guys that was like double our age and like born and raised in Queens looks at him and goes, hey, you're making us look like effing tourists. Stop it.
Tourists.
Yeah,
tourists. I like it.
We're not tourists. We're not tourists. We're New Yorkers. Let's go. But there's a thing about New York. And I think you have to, the mindset in New York is this. When anybody else in the world goes on a holiday, they say this is a really nice place. It's very beautiful, a whole thing. When a New Yorker goes on holiday, you know what we say? These people could never live in New York. Yeah, they could never make it. You'd never make it in New York. It's like our mentality. I heard someone say that, and when he said that, I go, "Oh my God, that's me." Everywhere in the world I go, I'm like, "No, you couldn't make it in New York. You'd be dead in the day." I mean, so that is a very true statement. It's just that's the way we think. And Colin Quinn is the comedian who came up with that, and he's got a thing on Netflix. It's been there for 10 years now. It's called "Welcome to New York." And his whole, anybody that doesn't understand in New York, I'm like, you need to watch that and you'll get it. Because he goes through the whole mentality of being a New Yorker.
I have to say, I mean, I was there 3 years. I used to go into the city 3 times a week. And I used to visit the city. And I will say, in defense of New Yorkers, I never really had a bad encounter.
Nice.
I never had a problem. But then it was explained to me, a New Yorker said to me once, he says, yeah, man, you're like a New Yorker with a foreign accent.
Yeah, very much.
He said, your vibe, I said, I'm from Joburg. And he said, yeah, no, it's kind of like that. You know, hey, here we go.
Yep.
You know, what are you talking about? And he said, you see, you're a city boy anyway. So you brought that here. If you were like a farm boy or something, oh my God. Big buildings, whatever, you know. And the thing is, when you're in when you've lived in a big city, and obviously lived in London as well. When you come from a big city, you know not to stand on the sidewalk and just, oh my God, just get on with it. If you want to look at the buildings, I don't know, lie on top of a cab or something on the roof and drive. I don't know, but you can't. You literally can't stand on the sidewalk and stare at the buildings because someone's going to mow you over with their feet. That's what I mean. You know,
that's what's very cool about New York is like, even when I go to Central Park and these people are like looking, get out of my way. I don't care that you want to commune with nature. Go to a forest. This is a park. We got things.
I think what you I don't know if you've heard about that whole thing going on in Europe, cities like Barcelona, where they're getting fed up with the tourists.
They're doing the untourist thing.
Yeah. Now, I'm not saying New York's exactly like that, but if you live in New York, you're used to the architecture, you're used to how things work. But then it's quite a contrast when you get some guy like your friend from Iowa who's like, oh, this is like a new planet for him.
Yeah.
So he's going to stand there and try to take it in and basically get in the way of the people. This is their daily life. This is their daily commute. They want to get from A to B now because I got to get there. Now, what are you doing? Now, why are you here? Why are you taking up my time? Move. And I wouldn't say it's aggression. I never saw it as aggression. I just thought, you just want to get on with it. Just get on with it.
We have things. We've seen clouds before. We've seen rain. We've seen snow. We've seen it. If Godzilla came and started to eat the Statue of Liberty, a New Yorker would be like, all right. And they would we got things. It's like, it's not a big deal. That's why I always joke, if a UFO ever landed in Central Park, New Yorkers would be like, hey, I'm walking here. You're in my way. They could care less if you're like, get out of my way. I have things. You're pissing me off, little green man. They could care less. Like the New Yorkers they don't give a rat's ass about, they got to do their job. They got to do this. And that's it. And I think it's hysterical. And so
they're very what's the word? They're very goal orientated.
Very get out of our way. We have to take over the world. Yes.
Do it. But I got that. Like on day one, I got that. I thought, oh, this is my kind of city. This is great. I like the fact. In fact, I may not have been born there, and I may not have lived there for too long, but I completely got that. And I thought, this is good. Now we doing stuff. This is not a sightseeing thing. Just do it. There you go. You want a picture of a building? I'll send you a photograph.
I'll get you a postcard. Get out of my way. Here's the best part. It was when the four of us had to go to Moscow, or we actually were in Moscow and the Ukraine and Georgia, that whole area for a while doing a deal. And I remember our client took us to Red Square. And so here's 4 New Yorkers in Red Square, and they're telling us stuff. And I'm like, all right, it's nice. We can go. And he's like, no, look at the building. And I'm like, yeah, it's a building. Right. I've seen a building before. He goes, but then he's explaining the tops and how they, I'm like, yeah, that's great. They make that. We got this shit all over the world. Like, oh, who cares? Nobody cares. It was like, so then we pulled out the map because he had to show us the map. And the only thing I remember about Red Square, and it wasn't really red, is that there's a strip club. And it said in the box around the strip club says historical site. And we thought that out of everything in Red Square on the map, was the funniest thing, that a strip club is considered a historical site. We're assuming the building, not the actual club, but it was like, and we thought that was funny. And to us, that was like, okay. And then we went to Stalin's tomb. Here's the best part. On Sunday morning, apparently Stalin can't be bothered. He's at dinner or breakfast, because we went there Sunday morning. No one's in Red Square. We're like, let's go look at the dead guy. Closed on a Sunday. I'm like, he's dead. How can it be closed? He's not going anywhere. So we would walk around and meet these people. And they, these older Russians would have their chests of metal, and we were always very respectful and nice. And they with their English, they'd all be like, "You're from New York." Yes. And it's like, even in Moscow, it was sort of like they knew. It was just whatever the attitude was. But we were always respectful and nice to these guys, and they would tell us these stories, and we had a field day. But I don't know. It's
so,
fun
Steve,
to travel. Yeah.
Is there anything on planet Earth?
Yeah.
Do you think that would impress a New Yorker?
No, I think
that's kind of sad, isn't it? Don't you think that's kind of sad in a way? Like,
I'm not. How do I put? Impress is not the word. There's times when I travel and I look at something like that's pretty cool. Yeah, even when I went to the Burj Khalifa and I went to the top, the 162nd floor, I'm like, yeah, big deal. I did the World Trade Center. I've done the Empire State. Whatever. All right, look, sand. Oh, how exciting! So thanks for the drink and food for the $9,000 I paid to come up here for an hour. So there's not even the malls there. They're very beautiful, but I've been to a mall before. I mean, I thought it was funny that they had to drive the rich people from their cars to the Prada store, to Gucci or Louis Vuitton store, because God forbid you walk 500 meters, but it is what it is. So it's no, there's nothing that gets me like, oh my God.
I think, I don't know this, but I think what might impress you would be this continent, the stuff that's on this continent.
I've been to your continent though.
Yeah, but this continent, this the like the wild, because that is not in New York. I mean, the New York Zoo doesn't count. That when you're out there and I have several times in my life been in some of the parks here, and you drive down the road and there is a big ass male bull elephant. He goes, yeah.
Have you seen some of the people in Brooklyn?
No, mate. Suddenly it's like reverse. Here we go. Whoa. I mean, there is some crazy ass stuff on this continent that I've seen, and big.
I think
this is
I don't know,
big ass continent.
Oh, I know. I don't know if I would be like, oh my God. I think to me, like when I go to these places and I like, because I like the animals and I see them, I'm like, I'm not like I'm like that's really cool. Like it's cool that that elephant can do that, or the zebra does that. Or does that. I'm impressed by that, but it's not something like I'm like, oh, okay, that's
Yeah.
it's still the same thing.
What I wanted to say is he's
Yeah.
like a New Yorker as well. Like, hey, what are you doing here?
That's right.
Get out of my park, man. Get out of my park. Oh, yeah? You want a piece of me?
It's like, you want a piece? I'm 6 tons. You want a piece of me? I'll show you a piece of me. It's a little different. Now, and so
A
to me,
New
that's pretty
York
cool.
elephant. Yeah.
Oh, could you
Wow.
imagine?
Oh, yes,
Wow.
I've seen one. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I see the videos every now and then on YouTube where the elephant, like, you know, the truck's coming and the elephant's like, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm like, I love this. The elephant's just like, no, I'll move you if you don't get out of the way. And I've seen the other one where the elephant stands in the road so a truck with hay can't get by, and then the other elephants start taking the hay from the truck in India. I think that's hysterical that they're that.
Okay.
I mean, I know they're smart, but that thing's the best.
To be clear, the
Yes,
elephants in India are smaller and smarter. The elephants in Africa are massive, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't say they're dumb, but they're not as smart as the Indian elephants. I'm talking about the elephants now, just to be clear. But
Yeah.
I will tell you, Steve, I did go on a thing where they had this huge elephant standing in front of me, and he pulled an apple out of my mouth.
Very
That
cool.
is just, it was scary and cool all at the same time. But I don't think people realize how big they are. That's what I'm saying. They are, wow. And this is a true story. We went on a night drive once, and I think they were tourists. No, they were not from America, so it's fine. I think they were from Eastern Europe. And the guide said to them, look, guys, we're going to come across an elephant, possibly. Do not shine the torch into his eyes because they are actually slightly blind. Their eyesight is not great. And he's not going to, or she's not going to, you know, especially if they're young around, they're not going to be very happy with that. So please, if I tell you to lower your flashlights or torches, please do it. Oh my God, we get there. We go through a little ravine, we go down like that into the river, dry riverbed. And right there under the trees is this big mama, but she's got 2 little babies with her.
Yeah.
And here we go with the ears.
Yep.
And he said, all right, guys, we're going to just back up slowly. Oh, no, wait. And they're shining torches in this thing. Look at him. He's so cute. No, but it was, and then he was trying to back up and the wheels were spinning. It was pretty scary, but we got out of there. But the thing is, I'm not saying it's all tourists, but I have been on these excursions with tourists here. And I think they think things like the Kruger Park, which is, it's not a zoo. We are basically the exhibits. When you go there, you are the exhibit. You are in their domain. And they go, oh, that's so cool. And this is a true story. Also, we were driving out, and there were hyenas. I don't know if you know hyena.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
It's got jaws like something really strong, or whatever it is. It's these massively strong jaws. I mean, they break bones easily. Right. And it's just dangling his arm out the side of the truck, going, "Oh, you want some food, baby? Oh, you go." And the guy just grabbed him by the back of, grabbed him here, right? Just pulled him. Sir, please don't do that. He'll take your arm right off, or she will, because it's amazing. That's the thing. That's the thing that I've sort of been exposed to and grown up with is that the understanding of these animals and how they are. I mean, they are brutish. They are strong.
They'll kill you.
In a heartbeat.
They're not in the zoo.
No, they're not animals. That's what people think. They think that this is a zoo. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, all I think is anytime I've ever done something like that is I'm like, okay, I like the ones that are enclosed because I'm like, I'm good with this. But the ones that are open, I'm like, so I'm food.
No, scary.
And I'm like,
scary
I know, and I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm food. And we're driving through the restaurant. Yeah, no, this doesn't work for me. So yeah, that's a different mindset. But yeah, it's like the problem is they see now, because people are stupid, between YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and all this other crap, they see people go, oh, look at the little baby. Yeah, the guy grew up with the cub for the last 20 years and he rescued him. He looks at him as his mommy or daddy. He's not going to eat him. Same with a hyena or whatever. But, they don't know you and you're coming like, hey, how you doing? They're like, ooh, that's food. And people are just stupid. And so you get what you get. See, that's definitely a New Yorker. Yeah, no, you dangle your arm, we'll kick you out of the friggin' van. Let's see what happens to you. So
that's right.
We're good with that.
I think it's something that New Yorkers would appreciate. I do.
Oh, we do. But once again, It's not one of those things where it's like, oh, you know what the bull? It'd be like, hey, this bull. Did you see that elephant? Could you believe the balls on that elephant? That's what the mentality is, just different. Like I took my wife to the zoo. We went to the Dallas Zoo, and an elephant, a male elephant, was peeing. So he has basically 5 legs. And she's like, "Oh my!" I'm like, I'm being, I'm like, "Well, look at the thing on." And like, to me, it's more of a joke thing. So our mentality is funnier when something like that would happen. If an elephant's charging us, we're going to be like, "Do you believe the balls on that elephant?" Like, we have like, "Hey, we're driving here." It's still that mentality. It's like they'll think it's cool because it'll be a story that they'll tell. But at the end of the day, it's going to be like, do you believe what that elephant did to us? How dare he get in my way? I know it's his city, but I'm driving here. He gets in my way. It's like when I lived in Montana, they have these deer, and they're like deers on steroids. Like, they take down semi trucks, and they're just mega. And when you see them, it's like, I'm driving here, and they're like, we don't get you driving here. I mean, it's like hysterical, but it's like, it's the mentality. A true New Yorker, in my opinion, you'll appreciate it. And when I say in awe, you'll be a little bit, but it's nothing where you're going to be like, oh my God, can you believe? Like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, when the plane went down in Hudson with Captain whatever his name is, all the New Yorkers, I always joke, everyone hates everybody in New York. When that plane went in the river, every single New Yorker's like, we got to take care of them. Like, boom, we're going to take care of you. Like, boats came, but people, it's a different mentality in that city. When something goes wrong, everybody loves everybody. Like 9/11, everybody loved everybody. When the plane went in the Hudson, everybody loves everybody. It's a very different, but any other time, don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Don't do this. I don't want to know from you. But the minute there's an emergency, the whole city becomes like, that's my brother or my sister. I got to take care of them. Color doesn't matter. Economics doesn't matter. Nothing matters other than we have to band together. And so that's much different than I find in a lot of other cities. And that's, I think, what makes New York and a New Yorker in their minds. Like, we don't get involved unless we have to, but when we get involved, it's a thing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. When I first arrived there, I realized that New York wasn't part of the U.S. It was a city off the East Coast. It's a city off the East Coast of the United States. It's an island, and it's geographically separate. I mean, it is, and you can tell. And a lot of people, they wear it like a badge of honor. Yeah, man. Yeah, don't know. And it is a different world, but it's also just a collection of people as well. And there's no time for BS. There's no time for. I remember when I first got there. I think the second or third night, it was night. I was in Queens. I think it's the L train back into the city. I think it's the L train. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's been a long time. And there was this big guy. I mean, he was a big African American guy, and he came over to me. And I thought, oh, I'm in trouble now. And he said, hey man, you got a light. And I went, sorry, I didn't smoke. Okay, but his size and his demeanor didn't match. Yeah, I mean, he was the size of a mountain, but he was like very hi, got a light, And so I'm walking away, and I thought, okay, that was really stupid of me. But I mean, look at the size of him. I mean, if I said something wrong to this guy, I'd be dead. So I wouldn't want to piss him off. That's what I realized. But the chances of him being pissed off, pretty much zero. So,
But I also think, and I know we have to go soon, but I also think, which is interesting, New York today isn't New York that I grew up in. There's no respect. There's no this. There's no that. Like, I see things when I'm there, and I don't know if the New Yorkers, let's say, of the 2000s, whether you're born if being born is the same as when we were born there, like if I wasn't born in the 40s or whatever, but the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s, when New York was still, this is New York City, and you were like, now it's sort of like, I'm from London, San Francisco. That's what New York reminds me of now. I don't think it has the same, like, guys like me, the dinosaurs, if you will. My guys in my group, 10, 20 years either way, we still have that very much New Yorker attitude. I think there's a small percentage that have it, but the most people now in New York, I don't think, have it because they've all woke. We don't want to offend. No, we want to offend. Like, we don't care. And there's a certain mentality. So
are you accusing the modern New Yorkers of being snowflakes?
I'm calling them pussies. Yes, I am. Snowflakes. I'm not that politically correct. Yeah, they're pussies. I mean, and that's their problem. They need to be back to New York. New York needs to grab New York by the balls again and become New York, and not this namby-pamby city.
Well, when I left in 2015, it was still very much New York. So I don't know what you speak of. Must have happened in the last 9 years. Is that what you're saying?
It's kind of changing. I think part of it's COVID. It's part of it's this. Part of it's everybody doesn't want to offend any. I mean, it's like it's New York. Let it be New York. It should still be. And then when you go do something and somebody's like, "Oh, this isn't New York," I'm like, "That's the problem." And they look at me like, "What?" Like when we go into a company and people are like, "Hey, this isn't New York," because my mentality is when I ask for it, it already should have been on my desk and it should have been there 25 minutes ago, and you should have known about it 2 days ago. I shouldn't even ask for it. And that's the mentality. Like I want it done right, and I want it done yesterday. And that's the mentality. Kick in the door, go forward, and that's it. That's the whole mentality. That's it.
But you see, you gave yourself away there as well when you said the word forward. That's how I know. That's how you know someone's from the East Coast. Just that word. Yeah, forward, it's almost like forward, like F-O, forward. But that's fine. No, I'm just saying it's things I pick up, and that's how. Accents are my thing. That's what I would have picked up. But I think we're Badge of honor, mate. Badge of honor. I think it's a great city. I'm sad if you. I haven't been there obviously in 9 years, which is a shame. I hope picture. I'll send you a photograph, man. But I got a bit of that. Like, the guys that sell stuff in the streets. Yeah. $2 for $1. $2 for $1. I love it. The voices are big. The things are big. The emotions are big.
Yeah. Hmm? The personalities are big. The personalities in New York are
I love
big.
that.
You're
I think
huge.
it's great. But as we said when the former Dave who used to be a part of these, we always used to say to him, the thing that I like about, I'll tell you why I like it. Because I think emotionally it's just bang on, honest. Yes. That's what I like about it. There's no bullshit. And that's what, you may not like being shoved out the way as a guy barrels his way towards wherever. But let me tell you something, he's not bullshitting you. There's no time for bullshit. And everything else is just, I guess for a New Yorker, would just be layers of bullshit. I don't have time for this. It's just he sees things or she sees things as people not getting to the crux of the matter. Just do it. Just what are we talking about here? What are we doing? What are we creating? Let's just do that. Why go around and just do it already? And it's the way you get somewhere. It's the way you do something. It's the way you think about something. You don't have time for interpretation. And does it taste good? Yes, then it's great. I don't care if it comes out of Gordon Ramsay's ass. If it tastes good, fine. That's it.
And we have no time for feelings. And there's no time for feelings in New York either. Nobody cares about your feelings.
You can keep your feelings to yourself with your friends somewhere in a low life area, but not in the street, not with people
not even at work, not even at a job. There's no feelings at a job. It's like nowadays, I guess there is, because God forbid you make somebody work. But back in the day, there were no feelings at jobs. It's like, this is your job, do it, okay, and then you did it, and you did your whatever. And nowadays, it's just sort of like.
So would you say it's an honest competitive spirit? That's what I would say.
It used to be. It used to be. I don't think it is anymore.
Oh, I'm sad. I should write someone a letter about it.
Write a letter, put it in your post, and we'll see what year it gets here.
Yeah. I'll put it in a bottle. As Sting says, I'll put it in a bottle.
You're quicker. Well, thank you so much. It was good to see you this week. Roll will be back next week. And if they have power and gerbils in South Africa. And don't forget, you can catch them live every Thursday morning at, let me have to figure this out, 9 a.m. Or 8 a.m. New York time for you people in New York, and you people in South Africa, whatever time it is. And then you can reach the rebroadcast every Sunday morning if you missed any part of it. And you can also catch it on wherever you get your podcasts. Look for Two Old Farts Making Noises. Look for Vaguely True, and you will find the show. Everybody, thank you very much. Have a wonderful time. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Cheers, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening to this Roald Woods, Rob Vega, whatever the hell he wants to call himself, fellow. This podcast thing, it makes him feel very important, and he's a difficult fellow as it is to deal with. So thank you so much for putting up with him. And